Hello, hello, welcome back. Today we're talking about how to be good or how to make a better world. And I'm taking this concept from, if you've heard of Dennis Prager, he has Prager University, he's a talk show host. He's extremely smart and well educated and super well rounded in the religious aspect, economics, truth, politics, everything. And we recently went to one of his events, and he came, I think, last month to our town and to the college to speak, and we went and listened to it, and it was amazing. So I wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was completely life-changing, especially for people who aren't taught this very often. It's not spoken about. So if you're new here, my name is Amanda, and here we talk everything about how to be the best version of ourselves. And that includes topics like this, where we learn about truth and what's going on in the world and what we can do to help. So let's get started. So the first thing he was talking about is, he was saying there's going to be a video of your life that God will have. So when you die and you go to heaven, God's going to have an iPhone, because why wouldn't God have an iPhone, right? And he's going to show you your whole life, all the things you've done. And I was like, that's a really good thing to think about, because that's kind of true. That would change a lot of things that we do. And I try to live by that, and of course, a lot of times I forget, but it's something to think about. If God will show you that this is the relationship you could have had with your parents, or with your kids, or with your health, or with God, and if you're not living up to that, or if you come to the end of your life and you realize you kind of missed the mark, that's going to not be so fun. So I think it's a really good one to just think about every day, that am I living to my full potential? And this doesn't mean you need to try super hard or be a super high achiever and perfectionist. I'm not saying that, because that will make it even worse. But what I am saying is just to be, present with people and not just be in a rush, and to be loving and kind. Those are the main things. Anyhow, so then he was saying, what good comes easy? Good does not come easy. And the topic he was speaking on is how to make a good world. And he was saying he hadn't really talked about it in these 10 points like he was that night. So that's why I'm sharing it. So how to make a good world. And so he said, what was bad about America was universal, but what was good about America was unique. And I thought that was a really good way he put that. And if I'm looking down, it's because I have my notes. I took pages of notes, but I'll shorten it. He said, all progressives do is tear down. They've never done anything good. It's not even like you've heard about the saying of a clock is at least right twice a day. He's like, progressives aren't even right twice a day. I thought that was a funny analogy. So he was going to do it in 10 points, or 9 points, sorry. And so number 1 on how to make a good world is it begins with the individual. It starts with you. And most aren't into that. Most people aren't into being good. They're only into being happy or chasing happiness. And for most people, it's completely fleeting, because happiness is not achieved without being good. And so you're saying, for you parents out there, ask your kids this. What do you think I, your mother or father, wanted you to be? Successful, happy, smart, or good? And the problem is, most kids will say, well, you want me to be successful, or you want me to be smart. But how many kids will say back that you want me to be good? The problem is we do not raise kids to be good. And he was saying a story saying that he would tell his sons, I do not want you to get good grades in college. Sure, if you get good grades, that's fine. But that's not the main point. I don't give a DAMN. I only care that you have character. So the problem is we don't focus on being good, but we want everyone else to be good. And I was like, wow, that is so true. That we want everyone else to be nice and kind and loving, but are we that way to other people? So that's something I'm still working on. Um, he was saying that with the bumper stickers that you see out there, like, my daughter is on the honor roll at such and such school. Prager was saying, who gives a, use a swear word, that doesn't tell me anything about your child. There's no linkage between honor roll and honorable. The number of smart people who've done horrible things is huge. Only intellectuals supported Stalin, who was the second most mass murderer. I hope YouTube won't censor me for saying that. An idea so stupid, only an intellectual would believe it. It's true. There are ideas only so stupid that only an intellectual will believe it. Like how people worship PhDs or going to Yale or Harvard. And those aren't the things to worship in life. And when I mean worship, it's not like we pray to it, but a lot of people make these things pretty much their God, you know, or like if someone else goes to those things, they think that, oh wow, you must be so smart. And that's not true. They can be some of the dumbest people and have the stupidest ideas that aren't based on truth and facts. And, you know, well, you get the idea. So you're saying, goodness has to be the number one preoccupation to you and your kids. A good world is only by you becoming good, by only you wanting to be good. Number 2, on how to make a good world. You cannot make a good world if you think that people are basically good. He said that my coming tonight was worth it to burst that bubble if you believed it, because that's the dumbest idea. He said you must be so ignorant of the human condition as to be mind-boggling to believe that. And he was telling a story saying that he just finished a book about the Russian Civil War. And he said it's a litany of human evil. Communism is the greatest evil besides Nazism. You must hate it. And so then he was saying that his favorite Bible verse is, those of you who love God must hate evil. It's a command. And then what was so cool about him is he would say it in Hebrew, because he has all of this memorized in Hebrew, and then he'll be able to translate in English. But what was interesting about this verse he was saying is Hebrew has a command tense that English does not. English has a present tense, it has a past tense, we kind of have a future tense, but we don't have a command tense. In Hebrew, there is a command tense, and that is the tense used in that verse. So it's a command. It's not like if you love God, you must kind of hate evil, or maybe not hate evil because that's a strong word. Like, no, it's a command. If you love God, you must hate evil. Which tells you all you need to know about the moral level of our professors in America. Because they don't hate communism. You must have a disdain for anyone okay with communism. We have a moral obligation, he was saying, to know the suffering of others. Because just because it's uncomfortable to hear in an AC room with our lives being so perfect, we still must talk about it. Because he was saying that when he was reading that book on Shabbat, which I believe is when the Hebrews, or the Jewish people, that's their Saturday and that's when they go to synagogue. So he was saying that he teaches at his synagogue. And he was going very much in detail about the horrible things that happened during the Russian Civil War. And a lot of people were very uncomfortable. And he was saying that, yes, it is uncomfortable when we're in an AC room and we've had beautiful lives and we don't know what has happened in the past or what other people are going through, but we must. Because that is how we appreciate what we have today. And that's why you see no appreciation out there, because everyone thinks that what they're going through is bad, but they have no idea of what has happened during Holocaust or even the Russian Civil War. Like, who has read those books and understood what those people went through? So that's because that's why people today, or kids today, or college professors or college kids are okay with communism, because they've never actually seen it in work or seen the results or read the books of people who've gone through it and the horrible things that were done. We have to connect our heart to that. So he was saying that you can't cure cancer if you deny there's a tumor. So he's using that analogy as that's why we can't say we can make a good world by saying we do not believe in the bad human nature. So he said, it's hard to be good. It's hard to be a good pianist. It's hard to be a good, whatever someone does that's amazing at it. It's hard. It takes a lot of dedication and effort. It's hard to be good. And so he's saying, watch his video called For Goodness Sake and show it to every kid, because it's amazing how just watch it. It's short, and show it to all the kids in your life, honestly. Because he was saying in the video, it's asked, are you good? And the kids are like, or the people are like, well, I don't steal, or I don't murder. And he's like, that does not mean you are good. That just simply means you're not a criminal. Not that you are good. And he was saying that how can you have kids and believe people are good? How often did you say to your kids growing up that say thank you? You probably said that like 10,000 times. Not just one time. If they were basically good, you would have just had to say it one time. And it's like kids aren't like, they don't say back like, of course I said thank you. I want them to feel that I just accepted the generosity of their gift and it meant so much to me, it touched my heart. And I just want them to feel that and know that. Like, the kids don't say that. They just take. You have to teach them to say thank you and be appreciative and put another person's feelings above their own. So I thought it was really funny how he said it. Anyhow, he said, babies are basically good? No, they're probably not evil, but good. I want, kids are like, I want all of these things. I want food. I want you to be right next to me. I want this and this and this, or I will ruin your life. That's kind of like how they are, right? Like, if you don't feed them and stuff, they'll just like cry and cry and cry and make your life miserable until you do what they want. Anyways, it's funny. So he said, first, we must make ourselves good. And to do that, we have to know that we battle our nature. So number 3, on how to make a good world. So people say, follow your heart. You see that sign everywhere. But he said, it's a stupid message for the most part, because it's as bad an idea as he can encapsulate in a sentence. I think it's so cool how he can put words together. That sentence is super cool. It's as bad an idea as he can encapsulate in a sentence. He said, don't follow your heart is a better sticker we need to put out there. He said, the Bible warns against following your heart constantly. Like in Deuteronomy, it says, do not follow your heart or your eyes after which you go astray. And that's how we read it in English, but in Hebrew, because he was saying the Hebrew part, and that's the original language that it was written in. He said, that's not how it's said. It says, do not follow your heart or your eyes after which you prostitute yourself. That's how it is said in Hebrew. So he said, following the heart is what gets you in trouble. That's part of battling yourself. The point number 2 that we just went over. The heart is the seat of good intentions, but intentions don't mean anything. Communism was built on good intentions and was the greatest killer of humans in any given century. It makes the Middle Ages look humane. 60 million in China were murdered. Oops, I said it again. And they still have Mao's picture up there. Imagine if Hitler's picture was still all over Germany. See? Wisdom is the root for good, not good intentions. So he said, there's the 4 sons story that all Hebrews know. So he was telling all these stories that he had learned because he went to a school where they taught, I don't know how to explain it, but they had some religious studies in the school. It was a Hebrew school. And he was saying that these stories were taken out of the Talmud, I believe is how you say it. And so these are stories that, you grow up learning character. And anyways, he was sharing some of them. So he said, there's the 4 sons story. There's the evil son, the wise son, the simple son, and the one who doesn't know how to ask questions. And so he said when he was younger, he always wondered, why isn't there the good son? There's the evil son, why isn't there a good son? And he said later in life, he finally realized it's because you can't be good if you're not wise. Wisdom is the goodness. That's why our universities aren't making good people. And so Mr. Prager was saying that he's spoken personally with more people than anyone. And he said he's asked people lots of questions and asked lots of people these questions. He was saying that if you don't get your wisdom from the Bible, where do you get it from? And they would say, well, I get it from life. And he said, if they really believe it, then why do we allow 18-year-olds to vote if the only way you become wise is from life? And if that were true, all 60-year-olds would agree on all the basic things in life, on how to be good, and they'd be nice and kind and good people. But no, they are dumb. So it's not from life that you become wise. So he said, others have said, so he would ask them, like, so at 20, do you believe you were dumb? If you believe that? And then other people would say, well, I have wisdom from reading good books. And yes, that could definitely happen. But Mr. Prager's theory is that at 12 years of age, his classmates had more wisdom than college professors because of the religion and that was taught in their class. And he also said that more homeschoolers are wiser than any Yale professor. And I was like, I like that one. And then another story from the Talmud he was saying is, who is the strong man? He who conquers his own will. Not he who can conquer a city or fight lots of people, no. The strong man is he who can conquer his own will, because that is the hardest thing to conquer. And he was saying that no one is taught that in a secular school. Which public school kid do you know out there that is taught that and says and knows that? That what is a strong man? Like if you ask them, what is a strong man? Are they going to say the person who can conquer his will? No. So they're not teaching wisdom in schools out there. See, the unwise are making the unwise. It's like the blind leading the blind out there. And another saying in that book was, the easiest embarrassed will never learn. So don't be easily embarrassed. And that's talking to me because I will not try things or do things because I'm afraid of being embarrassed. But that sentence is talking to me. The easiest embarrassed will never learn. So let's not be that. So another saying was, who is a wise man? He who sees what will be born. What does that mean? Well, it's he who sees the consequences of what will be done. Thomas Sowell had a term for this, stage 1 thinking. People are all the way they are because they don't think ahead at all. Like, what is the consequence of minimum wage being raised? Well, that restaurants will close down. And he was saying the New York Times back in the 70s actually had a page that said the right minimum wage is $0.00. Wow. So talking about God in the Bible, he's saying they are necessary for a good society. Secularism produces fools. The reason our universities produce fools is because they are secular. Like, only secular people say men give birth. Not all secular people say that, but only secular people say that. No religious person says that, or a truly religious person. And Mr. Prager says that he only judges things by their fruit. So how do you judge things? That's a serious question. Communism has only produced bad results, bad fruit. And very few people come out of college better and nicer than when they went in. He said that if you were lucky when you went to college, you were drunk 4 years and came out relatively unaffected. But who out of this audience, or in the whole world, or especially in America, who has sent a nice kid to college and then got a bastard arrogant back home? Millions. Let that sink in. The pandemic of children who don't speak to their parents, and many of them, because of this, the kids won't talk to their parents if they voted for Donald Trump or whatever. There are lots of kids that would say that, I won't speak to you ever again if you vote for such and such person. And yet, it doesn't go the other way. The parents aren't doing that to their kids, and that's the only way it should be going, is the parents saying that to their kids. Which kid has the right to say that to the parents? He said every kid has difficult times with the parent. But this is the genius of the 10 Commandments and the 5th commandment, on which all the first 4 rest. Honor your father and mother. He says all this stuff in the Bible is brilliant. He says there is no commandment to love your parent. And I was like, wow, I never noticed that. There is no commandment to love your parent. There is love God. There is love your neighbor. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is even love your enemy, but not your parent. Wow. Because God doesn't care. He cares that you honor them. He's saying that if you take the Bible seriously, you are a very different person. And that's the thing. Many people call themselves Christians or even other religions, but you can tell when they don't take the teaching seriously. You can see that in their life, in their embodiment, how they live their life, how they treat people, how they talk. You can see it. He says, because without God, if there is no God, there's no inherent meaning to life. You are no more significant than a pebble on Jupiter. And that's why we see the world where it's going, because everyone feels completely insignificant, that there's no meaning to their life. And that's why they're doing all the things they do. So he's saying the CDC and professors are asking the question, why is there more, the S word, like when people take themselves out, among Americans than ever before? And the three answers all these intelligent people came up with is 1, people are more depressed. Wow, you've got to be a PhD to figure that one out. 2, there's too few mental health professionals. And number 3, there are too many guns. That's what all these smart people, so-called, and PhDs and Yale professors and Harvard people came up with. Mr. Prager was saying that as soon as I see the word expert, I immediately prepare myself that something dumb is going to come. And I was like, yeah, it's true. He said the question should rather be, why is there more depression? Not why is there more, the S word, among Americans. The question should be, why is there more depression? And he says, there's more gun laws now than ever before. So I don't buy any argument for number 3 of them saying there's too many guns. It's because they lack God and religion in their lives. An easy test is because do religious people commit, the S word, like taking themselves out, as much as secular people? There's actual polls that religious people are happier. But professors don't go there. They don't put that on the news. You don't see that read. You don't see those statistics. It says if a professor says that, he'll get laughed out of the classroom. Wow, that is where we are at as a society. We can't even speak truth. He says Yale is the worst, but the competition for worst is intense. I thought that was a funny way he put it. He says, if it is good, if something is good, the left destroys it. There's no exception to that rule. Then he was saying the conscience is largely worthless. It's easy to prove. Bad people go to bed just as easy as good human beings. You make your conscience. You guide it, not it guiding you. Kids who don't talk to their parents don't feel bad. And I'm not even saying that those people are evil parents, because there's only a small percentage that are actually evil and hurtful. So without God in the Bible, what do we have? It's a serious question. Without religion, even all the religions in the world have produced good societies. It's when we are taking that out that we are seeing things crumble. And then at this point in his talk, his phone shut off or something. So he couldn't access his notes. So then he pulled out a backup paper from his coat pocket and he said, writing on my phone was smart, but this backup paper was wise. And I was like, that is so true. You can be smart, but you must be wise too. Have the backup plans. So number 5, to make a good world, small government. You cannot make a good society with big government. Every genocide was by big government, like Auschwitz and the gulags and China. Our founding fathers knew this. The founding fathers were as close to prophets as we've probably ever come, he said. They were flawed, but they knew human nature and the world and everything so well. And he was saying Deuteronomy was the book most quoted of our founders. It's an important book. We should read it and we should study it. But how many of us know Deuteronomy? And if you remember from my Charlie Kirk video, Charlie Kirk was saying that if your pastor does not know the book of Deuteronomy, then go find another one, because it is that important. It has all the laws. It's what we rest on. And yet people have no idea about that book. And I'm talking to myself too, because I need to revise that. He says, people who write a commentary on Deuteronomy do not get rich, but read it, buy it. I think Mr. Prager has written a book on it. And then he said, every person is to be judged in their generation. That's what it means in the Bible when, I think it's Genesis 6, when he says Noah was a good man in his generation. That's why the Bible says that. And he says, that's why I don't judge Jefferson for his slaves in an age of slavery. And I thought that was an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that. But it means that we will be judged for our generation, how we live in this generation. And then he was talking about government involvement, of how silly it is. He says, that's why Europeans don't have a plug in the bathroom, because you might get shocked. You know, who's ever done that? He says, in the audience, how many of you have ever gotten shocked being in their bathroom? And he's like, no one. He's like, it's so dumb. Just leave me alone. Get the government out. You know, people believe that they can give all their power to a human being with all that power of government. It's dumb, because we have human nature. We see what power does to people. We see what money and power and greed, we see what happens to people, you know? And yet, still, kids are going to college and coming out, and grown adults, and believe that we can give all this power to this big government and think everything will be fine. No. He says, the left says, vote for us, we will give you more things. Okay, sorry about that. A phone call came in. So he's saying the left says, vote for us and we will give you more things. The right says, vote for us, we will give you fewer things. That's why the right is at a disadvantage. That's why we're always at a disadvantage. And I thought that was interesting. So then number 6, people yearn for meaning. It's deeper than food. It's deeper than the need for food. He says that explains the left. They got rid of Bible, but they still have religion, secular religions, feminism, communism. He says you have to give people meaning, but with good values, not bad values. But you have to fill the meaning void. A lot of parents send their kids to college and think that's going to give them meaning in their life, and that's what meaning is if you go to college, you will have meaning. But no. You know, we need reason with God. Reason without God is nonsense. That's how people get that men give birth, or that men can compete in the same places as women. Like in California, the weightlifting was a trans guy, and he could do 250 pounds more than any of the women because he's a guy. Like, guys are have 16 times more testosterone. We've talked about it. There's so many differences. They're stronger. You know, and yet the woman who came in second to this guy in the women's event, she's cheering him on. And it's either because she believes it or she's too scared to be rejected for standing up. You know, it's classically unfair to have a biological male in women's sports. Like, how can people not see that? It says the most irrational people are overwhelmingly secular. God without reason leads to fanaticism. The left know men give birth. They don't believe it, they know it. And he says, but I believe God gave Moses the 10 commandments, not know. Because I wasn't there to know, so I believe. And I thought this part was very interesting, that Mr. Prager was emphasizing the difference between knowing and believing. Because knowing without God and reason is fanaticism and irrational. And number 7, God commands men to be good. What does God want most from us? You know, what does the Bible say? Isaiah said, the holy God is made holy through righteousness. You'd think that the verse would say, the holy God is made holy through holiness. But no, it's through righteousness. Because we sanctify God when we act good towards others. He said that I know this because God is our Father, and I am a father. And there's no greater joy than seeing your kids being good to each other. Like how he was saying that his son got married at his brother's home. at their brothers. And he said that that was the sweetest thing because they were that close to each other. And then he was saying that God only got sad once, when he saw that all the things that men were up to and all the evil that men were up to, and then he destroyed everything, the flood. And then a rabbi, he was saying, said that what is the most tragic figure in the Bible, in the Old Testament? And the answer they came up with was God. And he was saying that how sad God is to be seeing us being so mean and crazy in this world. And that's a part where I don't know if the rabbi was exactly right in saying that God is the most tragic figure in the Bible, because I don't know, I'm still a little mixed on that. Because I feel like God is love and knows everything that's going to happen, and he's just pure joy, and peace and everything. So I don't know. So he said faith without works is dead. The Jews get overwhelmed with the importance of law, and Christians get overwhelmed with the importance of faith. But both are important. We must have both together. Because all that Jesus came to do was to show us the spirit, the intent behind the law. He didn't come to destroy the law. He even said that I've not come to destroy the law. I've come, he came to show the spirit, God's heart behind each of the laws. A law can seem harsh, but when you see the feeling behind it, what God was meaning by it, so that we don't hurt ourselves, then we see that it is truly love. So we need both. They both work together. So then number 8. What good is good people without gratitude? They go together. For college, you get a BA in gratitude, then you get a master's in ingratitude, and then you get a PhD in ingratitude, is how he was saying. And I was like, wow, that is so true. Because you see all these kids coming out, or these adults, even older people, even 70-year-olds, and they're so mean and classically ungrateful, honestly. He says, no wonder leftists are unhappy. Have you ever met a happy leftist? Generally that's correct. He said that there's this young woman he does a podcast with on his show, and he said, share it with your kids. He says he really regards her, and saying that she was at Harvard and was a liberal and came to be a conservative through intellect, through his book, then through Prager University. And she was saying that the single biggest shock coming to the conservative side is how nice and happy they were, or are. The left paints us in diabolical ways, but do they not see how diabolical they are? They're not even happy. You can see that they're the craziest people, Then he's saying, if you're not grateful to be an American, you are truly sick. He says he's been in 130 countries every year since he was 18, except for 2020. So he's seen a lot. And people have always, and still are, lined up to come to America than any other country. If America is that racist or that bad, then they must be stupid to be wanting to come here if it's so bad. But no. He's saying, ask these people who believe, these things in a very sweet, not attacking way, that do you think all these 4 million blacks from Africa and the Caribbean are that stupid? Did any Jews move to Germany in the 1930s, when Hitler was doing Holocaust and all that? Nope. People don't move where they are hated, because that would be stupid. They move where there's a better chance at life. So, he says, if your child comes back a less nice human being than being at college, it's because they got that degree in ingratitude. And that's the reason in a nutshell. So I think the main reason he was really pushing is that don't send your kids to college. It's a madhouse. And the thing is funny because people have always, even conservatives and so-called Republicans and all these religious people even, have made you feel bad about oh, you're not going to college, or then you must not be smart or whatever. And I'm like, no, I've taken the college exams. I scored extremely high. I could have gone to the top colleges in the country. And I chose not to, because why would I give all those hundreds of thousands of dollars to a terrible organization, and where you come out completely twisted for the rest of your life? So anyhow, the main point I felt, which was super funny, that Mr. Prager was really pushing is, do not send your kids to college. And the only way they're going to learn values and how to be good is from the home. Motherhood is so important. you change the world. It's that deep. So gratitude is so important because it's the mother of goodness and happiness. You can't be either without gratitude. So be grateful. And how do you feel grateful? Because I used to not know. And it's like when you just feel like your heart just is like about to burst. You just feel like so happy. And you can just feel happy for the smallest things. Like now when I see the American flag, I'm like, you can almost like feel tears coming to your eyes because you've read all the history, all the story accounts of all the people who have fought for it and lost their families, and all the people who I'm friends with and they want to come to America. They're from other countries. And we don't realize how blessed we are. And even that we have like food, like going back to like the cave, go back to your cave woman part of you who like thousands of years ago, who she didn't even know if she could be able to feed her kids or her kids might die. Like we don't have those worries. We have our breath. Like if you're not even grateful for your breath, go to a hospice and see someone just struggling for breath, and you will suddenly become so thankful you can breathe so easily. Now there's all of these things that we can just be so grateful about. And the more we practice gratitude, the more happier and joyful we will feel all the time. It's a practice, because all we've been doing is practicing ungratefulness and being mad and angry at other people and complaining. But we can be addicted to this instead. So if you want to like learn more about that, you can definitely check out I teach this in my course. You can see it in the link below. And yeah, it's super amazing, the teachings on that. And yeah, I hope this helped you guys. It was a super amazing event. I wish you guys were there, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.